Hi ladies and gentlemen, Morino Ravenberg here again. This is going to be another video on a book review. The book that I'm going to discuss today is all about necromancy. The title of it is Communing with the Spirits, the practice or art of magical necromancy. And the writer's name is Martin Coleman. This book is by my own standards and according to my own opinion, the best instructional workbook that I have found back when I was scouring the internet for instructional workbooks on necromancy. Honestly, according to by my opinion, there was no other book that even came close remotely. Mr. Coleman's book is an excellent book for anyone that wants to learn how to work with the dead, and is literally just looking for someone to explain what to do and how to do it in a driver's ed kind of way. Okay, if you're just looking for someone that just lays everything bare for you and just tells you what you need to do, how you need to do it, in what way you need to do it, how often, why you're doing it, and all of that, then yeah, this book is an excellent book. My personal rating for this book is 3.5 out of 5 stars. I'd say 7.5 out of 10 is my rating. Yeah, so he just talks about necromancy, the theory behind necromancy in the book. I openly admit that I have not read the book in full, but I don't need to read it in full. I remember I read it and I skimmed over the rest. I only read a good portion of it completely, and the rest I just skimmed over it for reasons I'll explain in a couple of seconds. He talks about necromancy. Mr. Coleman, the writer, he talks about how necromancy is just one branch of magic and the occult, and that it's basically all systems have base rules you're supposed to adhere to and you're supposed to work by, which is all true, of course. Okay, most, if not, we're talking about all, if not at the very least, most magical systems have base workings that apply to all of these systems. Okay, so one base working applies to all of these systems, and if you as a magician, by base workings I mean that there are basic things that there are basic exercises that you're supposed to master. Seeing, hearing spirits and all of that, these are basic exercises that you're going to have to learn regardless of which kind of magic you want to practice. And after that, you can choose what kind of magic you can practice. Necromancy is simply communicating with the dead. What I do, for example, is Western ceremonial is communicating with whatever spirits I want to work with, okay? But I work primarily with celestial and infernal spirits, angels and demons and all of that, and pagan gods as of recent. But necromancy focuses specifically on working with the dead. And then he just elaborates and goes on, and he gives you material that you can work from and how you need to start and everything. And what is interesting is that you can start right away. That's what I found interesting about this book. There is no exercise set as much as I can remember. Please keep it in mind. It's a while ago that I read the book, so I'm not 100% sure about that, but I am 90% sure. There is no exercise set as far as I can remember. You can just jump right in after going through the preliminary material, okay? The introduction, and so on. And then he just tells you how you need to start and so on. Now I'm going to talk about something else, and the reason that, like I just mentioned, the reason that I did not finish this book properly. I stopped at the part where I disagreed with the author. Martin Coleman states in this book, he states that he literally just insists on working with ancestors. A dead grandmother, a dead grandfather, a great-great-grandmother or grandfather, a family member, and I don't agree with that. And that's when I basically stopped, because he really insisted on that part. In that book, he clearly made it clear that you won't be able to continue if you don't work with an ancestor, or if you don't have an ancestor you can work with. And I disagree with that. I was like, no, this is bull. This is nonsense, okay? Working with ancestors, based on my own knowledge and experience and expertise, working with ancestors is normal, okay? Working with ancestors is preferred. I mean, okay, it's more convenient, of course. If you have, it's like when you're alive, okay. Asking a family member to help you out or something like that. Family members are more likely to help you than a stranger. That's what we're talking about. And hence him focusing so heavily or relying, emphasizing, laying emphasis so heavily upon ancestors, working with ancestral spirits. But I don't agree with that. Like I said, okay, it is possible to work with strangers, to work with dead people you've never known in your life, but okay, you simply need to be wary of that, and you need to implement a kind of system that sees to it that nobody's going to commit fraud towards you, that nobody's going to take you for a ride and literally just take advantage of you. No dead person. Once you found something that someone that is reliable, okay, of course I'm not here to explain that system, but if I wrote a book on necromancy, then that's the way I would go about it. But yeah, a system simply needs to be, an anti-fraud system would need to be implemented to see to it that you actually get someone that's reliable, okay. But it's not necessary. We're talking. It's not mandatory that you're supposed to work with a family member or anyone that's any kind of blood relative, because those people are the only ones that give a damn about you, or that when they were alive or whether they're not alive. No, there are plenty of willing dead people that are. There are plenty of dead people that are willing to work with you and willing to help you in your life as a whole overall. But again, like I just said, okay, it's like hosting some kind of competition. Okay, you're getting strangers. You have no idea where these people are coming from or what the hell they're all about and what their agenda is. So that needs to be filtered, or that needs to be those requirements need to be set in place. Okay. But yeah, once you've gone through that, then a stranger is just as reliable as a family member. At the very least, just as reliable. Someone that you've chosen to work with, a dead person, knows that he can rely upon you, and vice versa, because you guys both signed to an agreement, a universal agreement, an astral agreement that both of you had to adhere to. If not, then the party at fault will have to suffer the consequences. In any case, that's why I didn't finish the book completely, because I was like, nah. And I dislike the fact that he laid such a heavy emphasis upon it. I was like, nah, this is nonsense, man. No, I don't agree with what you're saying, Mr. Coleman. I'm sorry. You have the right to your opinion, but I don't agree. But other than that, yeah, the book is a great book, okay? It is the only book that I know that explains necromancy in such a great deal. We're talking about setting up an ancestral altar, praying at their altar, you name it, finding family heirlooms of the ancestor that you want to work with, laying out offerings that ancestor has liked in the past. We're talking about if your grandfather liked bananas, then lay out bananas. These things for a magician like myself, these things are nothing short of common, you know. These things are commonplace. This is basic stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much it. He also goes into detail specifically about working with dead people, okay, engaging with necromancy. Another example is that I remember is that you need to, if you want to work with the dead, okay, the dead are just like you. If you want them to specialize in something, then you'll have to train them to specialize in something. You can't just work with a dead person and then expect that dead person to be good in bringing in money. Someone who was a bookkeeper or who was a banker, someone who dealt with money in daily life or in one of his past lives will be a better option. For example, working with a grandfather that was a banker is definitely going to be a lot more beneficial financially for you as a necromancer than someone that wasn't, because that person will have to learn how to bring money into your life over again, and that takes time, patience, and experience. That person will literally have to build up the level of experience, the same way that if you wanted to work in a bank, you'd have to learn, okay, the ropes. You'd have to learn what working in a bank and the responsibilities that accompany it are all about. I do remember that, and he said that you're going to have to train the dead, okay, that you're going to work with in the things that you need in terms of proficiency. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I have to say on this book. Okay, that's all I can remember. I really read the book. I went through it and I was impressed. I was like, okay, this is the best necromancy book that I've read. But again, this is just my personal opinion. There might be another better book out there, but not that I found one. I really looked online everywhere, and not one book that I find that gives it away as simply as in such a simple and straightforward way as Martin Coleman does. Again, hats off to Martin Coleman. As usual, there is a link in the description below to where you can buy the book. Let's see if there's anything else that I have to say. Oh yeah, another thing. Back from I did in the past. I have briefly engaged in necromancy in the past. Aside from my EVP article and the EVP video, Electronic Voice Phenomenon, I have engaged in necromancy in the past. And what I do need to point out is that necromancy is easier than Western ceremonial magic. Western ceremonial really takes a tremendous toll upon you because you're working with divine forces. You're talking about really, you're working with the heaviest of guys, okay? But necromancy, you're working with the dead. No offense meant to the dead, but again, these were simply people that were alive once, or individuals or entities that were alive once in the material realm. So working with them is easier based on my own knowledge and experience, okay? I remember when I practiced necromancy for a bit. This was after while I was still a ceremonial magician, a Western ceremonial magician. And I noticed how easy it was to communicate the dead, okay? I could do multiple rituals before I got exhausted mentally. Let's just say 2 or 3 rituals in attempts to try to communicate with the dead before I was worn down. Whereas with ceremonial magic, it was just 1 ritual and then I was poof back then. I was completely kaput. I was completely out of it. I was completely tired. So yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind, okay? Necromancy, I think, is one of the easiest kinds of magic to engage in, okay? Once you know exactly what you need to do and how to apply your craft properly, and once you've mastered it, you'll see that communicating with the dead is easy. The toll that it takes on you isn't nearly as high as the toll that it takes on people that practice high magic, the highest forms of magic like me. But again, to each his own. That is it in any case. Thanks for watching. Bye.